originally from Minnesota, so you can probably hear my long O's. I have been in New York for all of about 3 weeks, so I'm hoping to, pick up a new accent as I move out here. And I did go to St. Olaf and major in psychology, and my very first psychology class was with Dr. Roberts here. So it's great to see him again. I want to start out talking about social media by having you raise your hands for a second. Raise your hand first if you are a member of Facebook. Now look around, see how many hands are up already. Now keep your hands up and raise your hand if you have an email address. Are there any hands that are not up? Now, continue to keep your hands up. Raise your hand if you have a telephone. Okay, you can put your hands down. I do that to say that you all are involved with social media. All of those things are social media, or social mediums. Social media, as we think about it, we often hear that term and automatically think Facebook. And it's often used in that way. But Facebook is just one tool when it comes to social media. And I want you to think broadly about that term, social media, and think about it as a way that we simply become social, or that we simply use as a tool to enhance relationships. Because I think that's what life and what ministry and what God calls us to is all about, is relationships. And social media are tools that help us do that. I heard a lot in the speakers earlier this afternoon about intergenerational relationships, about relationships in general, and just want to encourage you, as you think about social media, to think primarily about relationships. I often think about what I do as the social marketing manager at Lutheran World Relief as a relationship building job. Another title I've used is social media specialist. And how I view my job at LWR is trying to connect and build relationships between Lutherans in the US who support the work of LWR and the project participants in countries all around the world who participate in that work. I'm in a unique position where I get to tell those stories, the stories of when I visit places like India or Haiti, which I got to do this past year, visit both of those places and meet people face to face. I get to then come back and use the tools of social media to tell the stories of the people I met there. And that's what I think tools like Facebook, what we think of as social media, do actually really well. Facebook has made it incredibly easy to connect one person to another person across the country and across the world. It's cheap, it's fast, it's easy. All you have to do is type in your email address to sign up. All you have to do is type in the name of your friend to find them and see what their latest posts have been. Now, a lot of that comes with, like any tool and any powerful tool, it comes with a great deal of responsibility on how to use that. You've heard and read, I'm sure, stories about cyberbullying and how kids can use things like Facebook to bully each other. Now, bullying's not new, but Facebook makes it easier in some ways. But I don't think that we should just automatically blame Facebook for cyberbullying. And I think as we talk about aging and talk about intergenerational relationships, we have an opportunity to talk about ways to build those intergenerational relationships that can actually lead toward positive solutions and positive role models for young people. And I think Facebook and other social media can help do that. Another thing that I heard talked about this morning was the idea of belonging. How many of you are involved with some sort of craft? Yeah? Are there any quilters in the room? Anyone that has ever quilted for Lutheran World Relief by any chance? To put a little plug in here for my organization, Lutheran World Relief started in 1945, and it started by a bunch of Lutherans getting together who had family members in Germany and in Europe who had been hit hard by World War II. And they got together and they said, we want to do something to help our relatives in Europe. And so one of the first things they did was got together a whole bunch of people who could make quilts. And they sent them to their family and relatives and friends that they had in Europe. Now, in the time since 1945, LWR has expanded its work to do all sorts of relief and development work, working with small farmers to increase their agricultural production so that they can get themselves out of long-term poverty. But one of the things they've continued to do is have Lutherans in the US make quilts and send them to people all over the world who are in need. And I got to see some of these quilts being made, or some of these quilts being delivered to people in India when I was there in May. And one of the things that I heard from them was that, yes, the quilt provides warmth on the cold nights when it's cold here in India, and it does get cold here. But the real power that we felt in being handed these quilts is that they weren't just a fleece blanket that somebody bought at Walmart, but they were stitched by somebody, a real person in the United States, with love, with care, with their own time. And we love that. That provides so much more comfort and warmth than any blanket could. Now, the reason I bring up this story is that Lutheran World Relief has started a Facebook group for quilters, so that quilters around the country who are working to provide these quilts for people all over the world can sign on to Facebook, join the LWR Quilters group, and all of a sudden share ideas, share patterns, share where sales are happening on material. And all of a sudden, an intergenerational, and it really is intergenerational, group has formed where people are building relationships through this medium. And it's an amazing thing to watch, actually. As I started it with a couple of other people on staff, I was a little bit skeptical that it would actually work, that it would take off. And now as I see that people are logging on and sharing their ideas, they're doing a lot more than just sharing ideas or tips on how they make their quilts. But they're starting to build relationships. I saw a couple of people in this group from Ohio, but different parts of Ohio, talking about where they can drop off their quilts. And one of the women was talking about her church group who gets together every Wednesday night, and another woman said, you know, I've just been doing this on my own. I don't have a church group. And the first invited her to come and quilt with the rest of their group. And it was just this really cool, neat thing to see of people connecting who didn't know each other before, to find a way to connect online and on social media and really find that social aspect of it. So I want to encourage you, if you are on Facebook, to think about how can I connect and really build a relationship with other people through this medium. I don't think that Facebook is the be-all, end-all answer to relationships. as we have moved to a new state and left many of our friends and family in Minnesota, I love Facebook, but it's not the same as sitting with a friend of mine, and it's not the same as talking to them on the phone even. But it's a way that I can connect to them in a way that I might not otherwise be able to on a day-to-day basis. Just a really quick story, because I know that we're short on time. My wife and I have two young nephews who we left in Minnesota as we moved out here. And one of them, the older of the two, is 3, and the younger one is 1.5 years. And the 3-year-old, William, has just learned in the last couple of months how to answer the phone. And so the last time I called their house to ask my sister-in-law a question, William answered the phone, and I was kind of taken aback because I hadn't had that experience happen before, so I paused, and I said, "Oh, hi." And before I could even finish talking it, the phone hung up. And I called back immediately, and his dad, Ethan, answered the phone, and Ethan said, "Oh, yeah, William just learned how to answer the phone. But if he doesn't hear anything immediately, he just hangs up and says, 'Nobody was there.'" And, it was funny. Just last week, as we got settled into our new life here, we set up a Skype date with our sister, with Ellie's sister, and our nephews. And we weren't sure how it was going to go based off of my phone call experience. But if you don't know what Skype is, it's another social media tool that is based around video calling and video conferencing. And we weren't sure that William and Henry, the 1.5-year-old, would be able to pick up on what was going on with Skype, if they would know that it was us over the computer. But we decided to try it. And as soon as we started up the Skype call, our video came up on their screen, their video came up on our screen, and Henry looked at us as a 1.5-year-old and kind of like tilted his head to the side and wasn't quite sure, and we waved right away and said hi, and all of a sudden this big smile broke out onto his face. And over the course of this hour-long video call conference, we were able to connect with our two nephews in a way that we never would have been able to if it was just over the phone. At one point, Henry climbed up onto the laptop and tried to kiss us on the screen, and hugged the laptop and tried to rub my beard on the screen like he does when I'm actually in there in person. And as much as it is never going to amount to this being in the same room with William and Henry, it's an amazing way to build a relationship with these little boys so that while we are living here, we don't lose that relationship with them. And I want to encourage you to explore, to learn these social media tools. If you mentor a kid in your congregation as a confirmation sponsor, ask to be their friend on Facebook and just go and join and write them encouraging notes on their Facebook wall. You can build relationships in those places that they probably already are. And it's an amazing tool. So thank you. Explore it. Find what it is. Thanks.